Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the HTC Vive Cosmos, or the Vive Cosmos, depending on what you want to call it. Now, this is the latest and greatest virtual reality headset from HTC, and the latest in the Vive range, and it's interesting because it's basically an alternative to the Oculus Rift S, in that it's very similar, and I'm going to do a video to compare the two in the near future. This is an unboxing video. I'll be giving you a brief overview of what's in the box, and I'm planning on doing a review in the near future soon once I've had more time to play around with it, but I wanted to show you what's in the box and what you get for your money. Now, this headset is around £699, $699, which is a really interesting price point because it's considerably cheaper than the HTC Vive Pro, which will set you back around £1,000 or $1,000. And was previously perhaps the flagship, and still might be if you consider that one version of it has eye tracking. However, this is interesting because it still tethers to your PC but no longer requires base stations, so you can use this without any tracking base stations. And that's where it's similar to the Rift S. It's a plug and play affair and doesn't require any external tracking sensors. It has 6 inbuilt cameras that provide inside-out tracking to track the controllers, the room, and your movement within it. It's also a really nifty and awesome looking headset. It is also worth noting that this is the best screen that HTC has ever included in a Vive headset. This has the best pixel resolution at 1440 by 1700 pixels per eye. That's a total of 2880 by 1700 combined, from a dual 3.4 inch LCD diagonal display that has a 90 Hz refresh rate and 110 degree field of view. Now, in the box you get the headset itself, the little link box, which will be familiar to anybody that already knows about HTC Vive products. You basically need this. And that's one difference to the Rift S, because the Rift S just plugs straight into your machine, but this one needs to be plugged in to this first before it goes into your gaming machine. And you'll note that you get markers on either side, so you can't get it wrong where you're meant to plug it in. Now, you get a DisplayPort cable with a mini DisplayPort connection on it. The mini DisplayPort bit is what connects to the link box, and then the other end goes in your graphics card, so it's worth noting that you will need a DisplayPort capable graphics card. You also get a USB connector that again connects the link box to your PC. This is USB 3, and they recommend using that to get the best connection. It's worth noting that you only get the DisplayPort and the USB 3 connection to go into your PC, so there's a lot less connections than, say, with the Oculus Rift that required like 3 USB connections and an HDMI cable, so it's pretty easy. Setup basically here is going to be a lot easier without the base stations, without that hassle. It's a much more plug and play affair, and that's one of the things I really liked about the Oculus Rift S. If you check out the review there, you'd see how I talked about how much easier it is to set it up, and it means you can use it with laptops and you can use it in any space. You'll note that you get a couple of manuals in there, one of which is an IPD measuring guide, so you can get a manual adjustment on your IPD and work that out. You'll be pleased to see, and I'll show you that a bit later on, as well as the brief setup guide. Now, the controllers, you'll notice, have taken quite a change, and they actually look quite similar to the Oculus ones, except they're a lot chunkier. They also have this really funky display on the top which lights up white when they're powered on and lets the sensors work out where they are. You'll note also 2 triggers on the top and a side trigger as well. These look very similar to the Rift controllers and Windows Mixed Reality ones, and another similarity is that they also require AA batteries. Now, the previous Vive controllers were plugged in, had inbuilt batteries. This might be a downside or a plus point depending on how you look at it, because it means if the batteries ever run out, you haven't got a problem because you can just replace them with AA, so it's pretty easy. The headset itself has a proprietary cable on it. That's the bit that connects to the link box. You cannot plug that straight into your gaming machine. You need the little control box to power it. You can see a really striking design on this headset. It's modular as well, and I'll show you what that means a little later on. Now, the headband is quite interesting because it's similar to both Windows Mixed Reality headsets and other headsets that have been released recently. If you note, it looks quite similar to the deluxe head strap you could get for the original HTC Vive, and you get a similar sort of ear cup design. They slightly improved this, but it's not as fancy as what you get on the HTC Vive Pro. It does move around a lot though, up and down, back and forth, for twists and turns. They're going to sit nicely and comfortably on the ear. They're also quite soft and comfortable too from a quick check to see what they're like. As I said, I'll give a more in-depth overview in the review once I've had a chance to play around with this a bit more. But you can see from the way they sit and the way they move that you'll be able to fit them nicely on your head no matter what your shape and size. It should be interesting. What the sound is like remains to be seen though, so make sure you subscribe to come back and check out the review. The headset itself, as I said, features 6 different cameras for tracking the room. This means that you're no longer doing the base stations and you can still have the 6 degrees of movement, and it'll be able to track you moving up and down, back and forth, moving the controllers around and everything else. One thing it's worth noting in the reviewer's guide is it says that these cameras need sort of coloured walls and they'll have trouble in a room that's white. So it'll be interesting to see how that holds up because my office is completely white, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Whether it still manages to track properly or not. I've used inside-out tracking with the Rift S and not had an issue though, so I don't really see that it'll be a problem. It'll be interesting to see whether it does or not. Now, the HTC Vive Cosmos certainly looks the part. It's a fantastic looking headset, really striking. It does, however, have a few niggles with it, and I'm going to do a separate video to cover what I see as the potential problems with this headset. But one thing I will say now is that it is perhaps a bit on the cheap side. It doesn't look at it, but it does feel it, and I'll show you what I mean a bit later on in the video if you stick with me. In certain regards it feels cheap, in others it looks impressive. These cameras look fantastic, they look really great. The way the modular faceplate is designed also looks neat. The headband is also really cool. It's a flip visor style, which is really nice, and it's great that they've done that because it's similar to the Windows mixed reality headsets that have been around for a while, and those visor styles are much easier to get on and off because you can flip the headset out of the way if you need to see around the room or if you just want to cool off for a second or get your bearings. So it's really nice to be able to do that without having to take the whole headset off. There's an adjustment wheel at the back that I'll show you in action. Now, this modular faceplate design means you can pop the front face off, and they're saying that they're going to release mods in the future that will allow you to upgrade and change how the headset works, so that'll be interesting to see what they do there. And you can see it actually comes off relatively easily. It did take a little bit of convincing. I didn't want to break it either because this review unit has to go back. When you see underneath, now it looks like I've just made a robot a bit naked. But you can see there's the connection at the top sort of center there that connects to the front headset. You can see it here and where the other camera wiring goes, but this little face itself feels really flimsy and not terribly good quality. I think you'd have to be very careful in handling it, especially if you've taken it off like this. I feel like it could easily be damaged. It feels like a very light plastic. Obviously they want to keep the thing light, so it's not surprising they've used light plastics to do it, because you don't want really heavy materials that are going to weigh your face down constantly. So it's obviously striking a balance between comfort and quality. It's going to be important, but I do feel like that maybe feels a bit cheap, and I was actually really worried I was going to break it, or I was just simply taking it off and putting it back on again. Luckily I didn't know. And like I said, it'd be really cool to see what they do with the future modifications on that. I'm really hoping to see a mod that allows for hand tracking. Now, you still have the sort of classic Velcro headband on top, but you'll note a very padded lining on the front and on the rear. Plus you get this wheel to adjust the size of the headband, which is quite a common thing now from VR headsets. Everyone seems to be going towards this adjustment wheel, and it makes it really easy to make it larger and smaller really quickly without faffing around. The original Vive had at least 3 Velcro straps on it, and you had to mess about trying to get it the right size, and if you wanted to take it off and put it back on again, it was a nightmare. This, obviously rolling it in and out, makes it a lot easier, and then you've only got one strap to adjust the top. It's also worth noting that this padding looks fantastically comfortable, and also it looks like you'll be able to wipe sweat off it quite easily. Now here's another thing I want to show you in terms of feeling cheap. This faceplate makes a lot of noise. It's removable, but it feels really cheap and it makes a lot of noise if you move it around. I moved it around by accident and I was like, whoa, that sounds weird. Now, obviously you're not likely to be moving your face around in here much, but it just feels like a low quality design, and question why they've done that. Now you can pop it out, so maybe there's going to be replacements. Not quite sure what the upgrades here are going to be. Maybe you'll be able to get larger face plates or better designed ones, I'm not sure. It does come off and go back on quite easily, but again it feels like it might snap in the hand. It looks like it's a bit too easy to break, not terribly well constructed, and weirdly cheap considering the amount of money you're paying. It's still $700, £700, it's still a lot of money, and yeah, you've got these kind of elements to it that feel like they might break quite easily. However, you can see once you've got that off, you have access to the cables that plug in, the audio cable on the top right, plus there's the USB-C port up here, which isn't in use, which is interesting. You also note nice big lenses, similar design to the original Vive, similar shape. Makes me wonder whether I can fit my prescription lenses on there. It also has a little sensor to let it know when you've got it on your face, which is pretty cool. Another point of note is the little paddings around the edges attached by Velcro, and that comes off easily as well. So you'll be able to take that off and clean it if it gets too sweaty, so that's pretty cool. Here you can see the flip-up visor in action. And again, that flips up nicely, and it should be really useful. Just have it on your head, be able to flip that up. And obviously just fitting it in the first place and taking it on and off, it's going to be a much easier process, and that's why these headband designs are a lot better than the old traditional Velcro ones. You see you get quite a lot of space to it as well. Found the Velcro strap a bit finicky to start with, but once you get it in, it's actually, and I was immediately struck by how comfortable it is. I didn't feel like it was going to be that comfortable when I first held it in my hand, because of the faceplate just felt a bit cheap and stuff, but it actually sits really nicely on the head. That headband really helps. The padding on the front, the padding on the rear, the padding on the ear cups themselves as well, everything feels really good. It'll be interesting to see how it holds up after a couple of hours of gaming and sweating in it. But as I said, this front padding and the rear padding sort of has this texture to it, a design that looks like it might be white clean, so if it does get a bit hot, it should be easy enough to keep clean. You can remove those eye pads as well, so you can make that nice and clean if you need to. You see a nice bubbly texture to it. I don't know if my forehead's going to have a load of marks on it after playing with it for a while. It'll be interesting to test that out and see how it goes. Now, one of the potential niggles that I wanted to cover with the Cosmos is the way it connects to your computer. So here I have Alienware M15 R2 laptop that I recently reviewed. Now this has HDMI output and a DisplayPort mini output. Now, as I said, the link box needs to connect to your PC, but it needs to do it via DisplayPort and the USB 3. There is no DisplayPort connection here, so I'm stuck. There is the mini DisplayPort, however they have not supplied, you do not get an adapter in the box that will let you plug into a laptop like this. Now the Oculus Rift S did come with an adapter, and here it is, so I'm just temporarily borrowing it from the Oculus, and that came in the box, so there's no extra purchase. So if you bought the Cosmos and you have a laptop or you don't have a DisplayPort output on your computer, then you're going to need to buy an extra accessory before you can use it, which is kind of a bit frustrating, and you might be annoyed if you've just paid out all that money and then you can't use it. Minor gripe though, pretty easy to fix, and on most desktop graphics cards you'll probably find a DisplayPort output. Now here you can see the IPD system is a roll wheel, so you can adjust it in and out, and you'll see the lenses moving in and out. Obviously you need to measure the distance between your pupils with the little guide that you get in the box, and then you can set it manually and adjust that. Once the headset's on, you can then obviously get the sensor and let you know how far apart or close together the lenses are and get it in the right position. This apparently has the least amount of screen door effect possible, and is the best screen experience so far with any HTC Vive headset. I'll be interested to see what that's like as well. Now the controllers, as I said, have this funky white light to them. They light up really bright so the headset can see them. They end up looking really cool. So here you can see one on the left that is in pairing mode, and the one on the right that's paired. Process for setting that up is really easy. Plug the batteries in. When the software's on, you then just press and hold the button and it connects. This one was having a little bit of trouble with it because the batteries weren't in quite correctly, so I had to take them out, put them back in again, and press and hold the button, and then it paired eventually. They look really striking. As I said, this design is very similar to the Oculus Rift controllers, the touch controllers, apart from the double trigger system, so you've got that extra buttons, but they're quite a lot chunkier. I'm going to compare them in a video with the Oculus Rift S soon. I feel like these are a lot fatter. If you've got small hands, you might have trouble with them. They're quite significantly larger, hefty in the hand. They have good texture to them though. I don't feel like you're going to accidentally throw them across the room. You obviously have the wrist straps, but they're not going to slip in your hands either because they've got this nice design to them. And they do look pretty swish, and I really do like those lights on the front. Obviously not just for the visual effect, but to help with the tracking as well. All in all, this looks like it's set to be a pretty spiffing headset. Please make sure you subscribe, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and come back to check out the review and the other videos. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting or hilarious. Be sure to subscribe and check out these other videos, as well as taking a look in the description for links and other information you might find useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see extra about this, and have a great life.